How y'all doing? It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. I just wanted to give some perspective because people kept asking me this. I just basically put up a post. What's up, yeah? How you doing, King? Put up a post saying do not watch the video. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have watched the video. I do understand that, but people were asking why. So I wanted to give some perspective of why I was suggesting that. There's a lot behind why I suggested it. I was part of another event this evening, a network event, and they decided to discuss the situation with Ahmaud, for about 30 minutes. And in that group, hey, what's up, Shadon? How you doing, Queen? How you doing, Nikita? Um, there's a lot of people in the group, just expressing their despair with this scenario naturally so. Lots of despair, different people giving their ideas of, possibly leaving America, people talking about we got to have guns, and it was a lot of despair. A few people that wasn't despair, but most people were. And so, for those of you that know, I'm the curator of the Mental Dialogue Community Club, Mental Dialogue, the conversation inside your head. I always say if we can improve the conversation inside your own head, you will be better, and therefore we will be better. So what I'm about to say, just listen when I say it, why not watch it? I'm absolutely, Shadon. So I want you to give consideration to what I'm saying. For those that are a part of the Mental Dialogue, it says I can go in live with somebody. Oh, they added that back to Facebook? Okay, I don't know about that. I may do that in a second. But anyway, let me stay on point. So I'm asking for those that are choosing to watch. If I say something you disagree with, please don't turn off. Not because I want you to agree with me. I want you to consider the perspective, and if you will at least consider the perspective, I hope to give you some things to think about. All I ask is that you think. That's what we say all the time. So again, at the community club, what we specialize in is having dialogue, even when we disagree, and considering why the other person is saying. And again, I'm not saying this for you to agree, but I want to give some perspective of why I was suggesting why you shouldn't watch it. I have one main reason why I say that. Again, I don't care if you agree or not. I just want you to consider why I'm saying it. But there's a much bigger reason, even if you disagree with my initial why. So I'm gonna give the initial why, which if you listen to the talk show, we talked about some of these other same scenarios on the show from time to time. This part you've heard before, but I want to go into what's much deeper than that. So the initial aspect of not watching it is basically the trauma of seeing a black man being killed on camera. There have been plenty of situations where justice has been served and justice has not been served, whether it was on camera or not. So I say that to say that, for example, if you remember the brother that got dragged behind the truck in Texas, where the two white guys dragged the brother behind the truck. We didn't have a video of him getting drugged behind the truck, but those two guys got the death penalty. So I'm using that example just to simply say, again, you don't have to agree with me, but I'm using that example to say that I can advocate for justice for Mr. Ahmaud Arbery without actually watching the video. Again, if you think it's necessary to see the video, I'm not asking you to agree with me. All I'm simply saying is it's not necessary for me to see the video to advocate that this man get justice. Because when I said on my Facebook page earlier, do not watch the video, do not watch that video, some people's assumption was meaning that I was meaning to be indifferent to it. Some people's assumption was that I was saying do it because I don't care about it. Some people were surprised, like, because of what I do with the Mental Dialogue Community Club, they was completely surprised, like, why would you say that? Somebody even suggested that it was cowardly not to watch it. And, and even when I posed to them that if there is a level of advocacy that I could still have that whether I see the video or not. That's a simple point. Here's the other aspect in our social media age when those videos exist. I got a lot of places I'm gonna go with this. We're gonna get real deep with this, so I'm trying to walk through it step by step. So I've already kind of pointed out that one, it wasn't necessary to see the video. and still have anger if that's what you are feeling or what your emotions is. Here's the other aspect. The other aspect of choosing to watch it. Again, this is not me trying to disagree with you if you feel like you have to watch it. Again, I'm not doing this dialogue for agreement or disagreement. It's please consider perspective. So another aspect, again, if you watched it and you feel like it's necessary, no problem. But keep this in mind for part of the reason why I also suggested not watching it for some people. This may not apply to you. Here's the other aspect. So for a lot of people, especially in the social media age, and I told you on the earlier event, the networking event, people were expressing a lot of despair. Well, subconsciously, seeing seeing this scenario, and I can only imagine how traumatizing it is to see. I did not watch it, but if you seeing the scenario and seeing it over and over again, I'm talking about any of these scenarios that pop up on social media, any of the past situations that we know about where there was video, just know that if you're far away, you're nowhere near Brunswick, if you're in a situation where you may not be able to assist, for example, assist with whatever's going to happen going forward, protesting or whatever's going to go forward. If you're not able to assist, here's the reality when you see the video. There is a subconscious psychosis that sets in, and your despair comes from thinking there's nothing I can do about this. Or the other thought is this shit happens all the time. But even when you're mad and saying this shit happens all the time, underneath that is the inability to do something about it for a lot of people. Now, there are some people who will see the video and they become activists, and they whatever thing they feel like they need to do and they're driven to do it. Again, I'm not saying one way's 100% correct. I am trying to address that for the majority of people who, even those that came on my post saying you need to watch it or you should watch it, or suggesting that I'm a coward for not watching, because they didn't understand the perspective I've had, so I don't even take offense to it. But I just want to give perspective that if, again, I'm not pointing the finger at those who did it. I'm just kind of trying to give perspectives about the psychology of this thing. So if you're in a situation where I'm saying do not watch it, and your thought process is to attack, saying, because most things are not either or. There's usually a and a both in a lot of scenarios. But if you seeing me suggest for the even if you disagree with my reasons for suggesting not to watch it, but if your perspective is that it's cowardly, or you want to talk shit to me about saying do not watch it, if your situation is that you're not doing anything different other than reposting, we got to do something about it. Like, if that's your situation, you may not have did any more advocacy than me, who chose not to watch it. And part of the choosing not to watch it, you may think this is being indifferent, but this is not being indifferent. Me choosing not to watch it and suggesting to other African Americans specifically not to watch it is so that your day is not beset with, let me see. Shadun says it's heartbreaking how we can watch murder and then stroll to a meme, laugh at that and keep going like it's natural. Yes, that definitely happens for some people. Absolutely, Shadun. And so anyway, so I'm gonna get to y'all points. So y'all keep coming and I'll get back to them. So I want to stay in a train of thought, then I'll get back to your thoughts. So get them in there and I'll go back to them. So again, I want to stay on this train of thought. So here's the aspect of why I would prefer our community, in a sense, not to watch. So like somebody on my post said the idea that we're already traumatized. And I said, that's the point. Again, you don't have to agree with me. I just want you to consider it. If we're already traumatized from a long history, devastating history in this country, so seeing the actual act on camera, how is that beneficial in you moving forward, other than creating this level of despair that you're gonna feel in the moment? I see mothers, or I heard mothers in the thing talking about how they couldn't sleep. That's a real thing. I'm not I'm hurting for that these mothers can't sleep because y'all have sons out there. I don't have children. So some people suggest because I don't have children is why I could say such a thing. No, out of complete love for my community is why I don't want a mother in California, for example, who is on the networking thing, who is in despair about this situation in Georgia. Like, I'd rather her day not be in despair, especially at this point of this scenario, right? Especially at this stage of the scenario, her being in despair and being angered by it, that's not a helpful thing. And it's not always simply anger when people have different levels of trauma. You gotta get through America anyway, and then you add to it the reminder and the trauma of your life does not mean anything. Like, that's not true. It's not true that your life doesn't mean anything. But keep watching these damn videos, and you're gonna eventually feel like not only does your life not mean anything, but if you have a mother with, and you're a mother with children, you're very concerned about what does their life mean when you see these scenarios over and over. That's part of what the trauma brings. Here's the other part of what the trauma brings. For again, if you don't experience this trauma, I'm not talking to you. But I wanted to again just share some of the psychology of keep watching the actual videos. You can advocate and still get justice without seeing the video. Seeing the video doesn't make you advocate more. If there's a scenario where there's some way that I could assist this situation, I'm going to do that whether I see the video or not. Or if you're like most of us across the country who may not be able to assist in any way, then seeing the video only subconsciously reassures, based on history, that your worthiness is not there. There's this concept that this is what America does. Well, what I would like to throw out there is I'm not surprised when these scenarios happen. It's not that I'm not having feelings for the situation. Justice needs to be had in this situation. Here's the reality. The reality is scenarios like this. So let's go ahead and let me just, before I do that, because people are going to take that the wrong way. So let me say this. Let me talk about what solution looks like in these scenarios. I just want you to consider that this is what solution looks like. So based on when we get these scenarios and we watch the videos, for those who choose to, again, I recommend that you do not watch the videos. But in watching the videos and being reassured that this is how America is, and it's never gonna change, that's what watching the video reassures based on our history. It reassures that. Well, here's a solution that you wouldn't consider if you've conceded that this is how it's always going to be. I heard people say we got to get our guns, and this is why I don't vote. Well, let me just throw this out. Here's a solution. So I'm fortunate enough to live in Atlanta. Very fortunate. Fortunate from the standpoint of when you live where we are, when you live in communities where we are aggregated, you literally get insulation to a certain extent. Now, listen to what I'm saying. Nothing's 100%. So when I say insulation, I'm not saying living in a place where we're aggregated guarantees that these things won't happen. We know we've had scenarios in major cities, even in Atlanta, right? So don't jump to the extreme. Hear me out. Wherever we aggregated, there's opportunities to control local government. Let me give you a couple examples here in Atlanta. So I've had police tell me this specifically. So in Atlanta, if you've never heard of it, there's Buckhead and there's Bankhead. These are terms you've probably heard in some of the rap music. So in Bankhead, which is in a sense called a hood, Buckhead's the high end area, right? But I've had policemen tell me, for example, there's just as many drugs in Buckhead as there are in Bankhead. But guess what most of the arrests are? Most of the arrests are in Bankhead. But there's just as many drugs. But I'm saying there's just as many drugs, but most of the drug arrests are in Bankhead. So let me bring the politics around to it. So the reality, and this is how America has always been. the politics are ran by the business class. It's kind of pretty much how our system is set up. Politics are ran by the business class. So in Buckhead, you best believe they're not going to be allowing a whole bunch of police raids. In Buckhead, I'm sorry. There's not going to be a whole bunch of police raids in Buckhead based on the business class locally running their thing. But if in the hood where where you're not necessarily control of the businesses, because again we always talk about how the police quote unquote protect and serve. Well, we always talk about that protect and serve really means property in those communities. So if we don't own most of those businesses, that's what they're protecting, not really protecting and serving us. Like we make that statement all the time. And so we're like, well, they would never do this in Buckhead. You're right. You're right. If you're owning the business, the business class kind of controls their local police cab. Now, the way we talk about it when we start bringing it into race, we'll say the white people would never allow this, and the black people do. Buckhead's where the money's at, Bankhead's not where the money's at. So we connect that to whiteness. But I can tell you, in Lithonia, you got a small little black Wall Street in Lithonia out here in Georgia. Very little small strip. 95% of the businesses on that strip are owned by black business owners. I was lucky enough to have them on the MentalDialogue show when they were starting to buy the building. So this has been a number of years ago. Now they bought all the buildings, and these brothers are literally involved in local politics. I'm about involved so much so that just last year they was having this big beef between the two black politicians that were running to control that little area. I'll give you this example to say, while that area don't got as much money as Buckhead, if I go over there right now and park wrong and about to get a ticket, the couple of business owners probably can walk out and tell the policeman, nah, this brother good, give him a shot, let him park over here and not give you the ticket. It's a small example, but what I'm trying to share with you is in Lithonia, where those guys have bought all the buildings along the block, they actually have the exact same amount of control that Buckhead has, where all the money's at, in there on their little strip with the police. I like they literally go to the council meetings every week, and some of their friends like they advocated for a certain mayor to win or whatever. I'm talking about to the point where they fell out with each other, like politics is supposed to go. Let me tell you why I'm explaining this example to you. I'm explaining this example to you as when we aggregate and become the business owners, now even American politics works the same for us as it do for the white people in Buckhead. So that part ain't a black or white thing. But if you watch those videos too much and say, this is how it always is in America, and it's going to be this way, and I'm not going to participate in the political process because fuck America, like when you get, because that's what those videos do. It set up despair. It continues a narrative that leads to no solution, because now the despair is America will never be for us. The example I just gave you is not about whether America's for you or not for you. The example I just gave is if we aggregate together, the political system is set up. If we become the business owners of any area, the business class rules America. The business class rules America regardless of race. Now, of course, because of history, the business class is mostly the majority. Like there's no running from that. But sometimes we are equating race in places where if you did not despair by watching a video that just makes you say, oh, America's never going to be before me, then you never can come up with a solution of how to protect yourself. So I see people giving me hearts and things of that nature. Appreciate you for that. But I also want to add is by not watching the video, you can stay focused on getting your children, your family insulated and aggregated in places where you think you will be protected. One sister on that networking event that I was on, it was an online networking, of course, during the corona, right? This one sister, she offered that her family moved from a black area in East St. Louis, and they went to a prevalent black area in Texas, and said that her family, her sons, when they outside, they supposed to be there. There's never nobody asking, are you supposed to be here? I'm giving this example to say that the despair that comes with watching the video can take you off your game if you want to talk about a solution. A solution is to consider aggregating where and with one another, where even if you're not part of the business class, that it's affluent enough of us to be a part of the business class, and now you got a little say so in what's going on with the police department. Like my brothers on the small strip here out in Latonia, I call it a little Black Wall Street, way out there out east. I'm in whatever, I shoot over there all the time. So I'm just breaking down within the context of the system that is available to you. You can watch the video and be in despair and say this system would never be for us, or you can stay diligent and says, well, I kind of understand that there's always that to a certain extent, what I will concede to, that we are definitely in a situation where we live in two different Americas as African Americans. That's a reality. What I won't concede to is despair to the extent that I don't look for a viable solution amongst the despair. So when I say don't watch those videos, it's harder to come out of that space to discuss a solution than those in the community who are now coming to understand, if that video is just a rerun of what I've known based on history, seeing it again doesn't change the rerun. So I can not focus on the video and says, okay, what is the solution? What is a better approach to that not being the rerun for my children? So for anybody listening, what I just said may not be a guarantee, but which shot would I like? Which one gives me the best chance? Because when we despair, then we don't consider aggregating. So like Maria Richards said this on my show years ago, and it's one of the things I've never forgotten. I think it's an amazing solution. So obviously at the turn of the century, based on what was happening coming out of enslavement and things of that nature, so we had a great migration to these certain spots that we're still in, these, in the Detroits of the world, the New Yorks of the world, the Phillies, these certain cities where we're still aggregated when we were leaving the South, St. Louis and things of that nature, different reasons why different migrations took place. So it took place, but if you want to come up with a solution that you won't really hear talked about while we're protesting and asking others, in a sense, to treat us better, a solution that would be very effective would be to remigrate back together. Because in doing so, you could take full control of politics both two ways, in number, and eventually, how it's commonplace to quote unquote leave the hood, get out the hood. Well, if the concept was we're going to aggregate back together, we now bring those who can buy the block. See, a lot of people that are currently there, we're always talking about gentrification and all these things or whatever, like they really are in a situation where even though they can't buy the block, the price is rising to the point where they can't buy the block. But those of us who are economically viable, if we had a concept to say, you know what, I don't want my family at risk living anywhere. If there was a concept to migrate back and aggregate together intentionally, if we were to really consider doing that, then the reality, people are not going to like what I'm about to say, but then if that was something, because that is a solution that people won't look at, but that is a solution that if we actually push that messaging, and you have to market it, and we push that message, and people said, you know what, instead of leaving the hood, we're going to build up the hood. If we were to consider saying that and really do it, then if your life circumstances sets you up to where you need to or choose to live outside of where we now said we're going to remigrate to, then you would also accept the consequences of doing that. because the consequences of living outside of your tribe or outside of your community is always going to be such that we got to go to Brunswick and try to protest to get Ahmaud, his justice. That's all. Like I'm not trying to give this space of despair as much as I'm saying where we are not the majority. That's not a reality. So let me just even make this clear. I'm from the South. My granddaddy put a gun in my hand when I was probably too small to hold one, right? Like you know what I mean? So I'm from the South. I believe in carrying my gun, I don't carry. I keep it at home. But let me explain this. So people people say we got to get our guns. Let me give you a little more history. For those that know, I'm very much a historian. Get your guns, protect yourself. Nothing wrong with it. But when people see these scenarios and watch these videos and people are quick to say it, I will tell you, when you say it, I definitely know you have never studied American history. Because I had somebody on the networking event say, the only thing that scares white supremacy is money and violence back. Like I've heard that comment 100 times. Let me give a perspective. I'm not asking y'all to agree. I just want to give a perspective. I'm gonna give you some history. That's where my perspective is coming from. So the only thing that scares white supremacy is money and violence back. There are scenarios. Let me say this first before I give the other history. There are scenarios where African Americans in history, somewhat to a certain extent, there are some scenarios where they have effectively protected themselves due to having guns. You definitely can protect your home, or you die protecting your home. I'm still 100% advocate of that. No, don't let anybody come in your home. I'm still 100% advocating of that. But I do want you to understand that our ancestors consistently rebel more than your American history class will ever tell you. You got to go research and find them. Our ancestors consistently rebel way more. Stono rebel. I mean, it's a bunch of them I can bring out. Nat Turner situation. I'm reading about the situation with John Brown, which is a white guy, right? But I'm just saying I'm currently reading a book about that literally that time period. So what I'm going to tell you is the reality, because again, I already gave a what I consider the better solution. Aggregate together, get in the business class, control politics. The American system is already set up for that. If we're aggregated in a city, we can control our local politics the exact same way. The system's already set up. So don't despair to the point where you don't participate in the system. It doesn't help if you're not aggregated when you're the smaller number. If you live places where you're the smaller number, but when you're aggregated, the shit works perfect. So back to the people that always despair and get so upset and angry, like, we got to get our guns. The reality is, historically, any time that there was a rebellion, and again, our ancestors rebelled way more than you realize, because American history won't tell you. The aftermath of those rebellions is the part that nobody talks about. Like, if I'm gonna give you one, I'm gonna go to several. I'm gonna give you one example. So, some of y'all may know enough history to know, for example, eventually, when we even gathered for churches during the enslavement period, there was a point where it was a legal requirement that those churches had to have a white person, not necessarily be the pastor, but part of the congregation. Like, some of y'all may know that history. I'm gonna tell you where it comes from. That was a result of after Nat Turner. The laws not to read came after an educated former enslaved person created a rebellion. They put it on the law books. They also put on the law books at one point after the rebellion, white men literally, this is some states in the South, legally, they put this in the books because of our ancestors rebelled more than you know. They literally put on the books, they had to wear guns to church. by law. By law. This prior to Nat Turner. That part was. Because the fear was, since Sunday was the enslaved only day off, they allowed them to congregate religiously prior to Nat Turner with no white person. But the fear was always that that might be the day they would rebel. So they legally put it on law. White men had to wear a gun to church because they're all in church together. What if the slaves rebelled and while they were all in church together? So it was written in law. That's how much fear our ancestors garnered way back then. I'm giving you this example to say, so when you say go get the guns, because that's what you say when you see a video of Ahmaud Arbery being gunned down. Yeah, okay, he can jog with his gun, 2 against 1. I respect it individually. Take your chances. So I'm not, but I'm being real careful about what I want to say because I want people to understand it in the bigger context. What I will tell you, after the enslavement period, again, I'm from the South. Until my granddaddy taught me how to shoot, again, this is just how it is in the South. Until he taught me how to shoot, I didn't know until he taught me. We had a rifle in every closet in every room. But as a kid, as a baby, I don't know this, because he got it set up, and I don't know this. But as soon as he taught me, and I got good with the shot, not only does he, now I still don't know this while I'm getting good with the shot. We go out, we practice, I'm shooting. And I was pretty good. My granddaddy thought I was pretty good. But as soon as I got good with the shot, I'm feeling good. I didn't hit all the targets my granddaddy didn't set up. This whatever. I'm getting better. He's proud of me. I'll never forget this day. He literally takes me home after shooting and then walks me around the house and say, hey, boy, anybody ever come in here? I just need you to know where every gun at. Couldn't believe how many guns we had in the house. I never knew it. We had one in every closet, and he had a couple under the bed. So he was saying, anybody come in this house, any room you in, you good. I give you this to tell you that that's how Southern cats carry it. That's how our ancestors after enslavement carry it. They collected plenty of guns. But we know the horrors of the lynchings back then. So you got this concept that we don't fight back. That ain't the history. That ain't reality. But what I will explain to you, us loading up guns, which is I'm a fan of. I'm from the South. Get your guns. But I do want y'all to understand, for people that are offering and getting upset and watching the video, believing, again, get your guns. But please believe and please know, but you're not going to like this answer. Them guns ain't finna change a whole lot. As if for those who think this way, as if a population that's 4.5 times us, who got plenty of guns too, the guns alone is not gonna be the correction to what we're seeing. I need to help you. Like, it's aggregating and controlling local politics is a much better solution. Again, I'm not telling nobody not to get their guns, but there are people who offer it, but you're offering it from a traumatized place of despair because you believe it's never going to be any different. So we don't come up, in my opinion, with a much better solution that is something that we could actually do. And also being aggregated, you will have less propensity for a group to say, well, let's go where all of them live. You remember how the whole KKK used to come get one guy? You know what I mean? How the police still roll up 5, 7 strong just to get one guy? Still becomes much harder if we're in places where we're controlling all of that. So I just wanted to really give perspective that continuing to watch the videos will bring this place of despair that really stagnates us subconsciously. And we start, as I always say, bad narratives lead to bad solutions. Because here's another reality that I may get everybody get off the video now. Because here's another reality. I absolutely want justice for Ahmaud Arbery. I'm pretty sure we all do. The reality is, and although that older guy, so I guess what I understand, has a background in police, and that's probably why he's gotten away with it or whatever, because of whatever his relationship with the police or whatever. I'm assuming that's a part of this, the cover up, if you will. So that gets the cover up part. But the reality is, these two Peckerwoods, forget their reasoning, saw a brother running and went and killed him, right? The reality is, our ancestors set it up to where that's not our reality in 2020. It's as fucked up as this situation is. So to watch the video and then say to the babies, because this is what we do, like we don't do it consciously. Like, you don't talk to your babies, but your despair carries over, and you teach the next generation that you got to be afraid of everything. And the reality is, that's a very rare situation in 2020. So if as hard as this is to say right now, I'm saying it to try to give perspective. The reality isn't that America's out to kill us. I talked about this on a show about 3 weeks ago. The showing it on the news, the propaganda of it is to reinforce the fear that America's out to kill you. Because reinforcing that fear stagnates us to only protest. When you understand that that type of stuff is used to incentivize the fear so that you can stay controlled, once you understand that reality, you won't accept control any longer. So in not accepting control, then it's, will I actually take the steps to insulate myself from those opportunities happening as often? But the reality is, for those who know I'm a stat guy, that situation is a reality that our ancestors face, and they already went through the fire for us not to face it as much. But if you want to insulate yourself, let's aggregate back together. It's a lot that I'm fortunate enough not to experience living here in Atlanta that I used to experience a lot back in South Carolina. The stories I got growing up in South Carolina, I think if you saw my live a couple of weeks ago, you know what I mean, talking about how the police teamed up with the white guys and we was about to have this fight with the white guys. Like, I grew up in a town where the KKK marched yearly up until my 5th grade year. And there's been a couple scenarios where the KKK march at the Capitol in Atlanta. But where I live, unless I see that on the news, I don't know nothing about that shit. Where I lived in the past, my little town, I couldn't help but know that they was walking through downtown. Because that was a real thing where I grew up in my little 3-stoplight town for a long time. But I also grew up when it was getting better. But when I say better, I'm not talking about, it's not about how I feel about America. I'm talking about the reality of the price our ancestors paid for us not to watch a video and be just as fearful as they rightfully were, for example, during the lynching period, for example, historically. Our ancestors went through 25 years of a black man being lynched every day for 25 years of this country. Like what we say in 2020, because we'll say this has been happening all the time, but it's just caught on video. It's just caught on video now. That is true. We seeing more on video. But I'm gonna repeat what I just said. There was a 25-year history in this country where there was a black man lynched every day for 25 years straight. So as much, again, I'm not trying to make these things relative. I'm just trying to give a perspective of watching a video will make you feel like our ancestors felt in 1910, for example. Let's go 1920, because that period was still going on. It was like, I think it was coming out of the, I forget, I gotta remember, I don't want to misquote the period of time, but it's, if y'all know Ida B. Wells, her legacy with helping the country get rid of lynching. So they kind of just aggregated the numbers, and the number came out to based on how many people were killed. That literally there was a lynching every day for like 23 to 25 years. I don't want to tell y'all the wrong year, but so let me go. So 1908, that was a real life fear when the KKK was running the South, right? That you could be not only jailed for any damn thing, but lynched and killed for any damn thing. And so we watch videos in 2020 and feel the exact same despair. It's not wrong. We're not wrong for feeling the despair. That is trauma that is passed down. That is historical trauma. So when we watch that video, we're feeling just like our ancestors felt in 1908. But as much as we say nothing, because we'll say in our despair, nothing's changed. But imagine we had a video every day of Ahmaud Arbery. I'm not trying to make those things relative as though Ahmaud Arbery is not a major thing. It's a major thing. But the but is preparing the next generation based on reality. So we can take real life steps to aggregate back together, get into business class, and control local politics. We just, generally speaking, we know our community just votes. And when we're spread out, there should be no expectations of what you want. But if you're together, like my little spot in Latonia out here in Georgia, they control their local politics. They don't fear the things that some of us fear if I were to still live back home where there is no control of the local politics. The system will work if we play the game. But to watch a video and assume that it does not work is because we're caught up in despair and literally want to ask others to look out for us. We can look out for ourselves with the system that's in play right now if we would work our way into the business class. So I know I've been repeating it over and over, but I just want to give real life perspective that do not watch the videos if you are not going to be able to assist with getting his family justice. I had somebody share with me that putting this thing on social media and sharing it brings the kind of light to help possibly get justice. The reality is, how many times have we seen these scenarios go all across social media and justice not be served? I'm not saying which way this situation is going to go. We've had some policemen go to jail in the recent 2 years as well. But I promise you, those policemen that went to jail, they went to jail not because of social media. They went to jail because of the prosecutors and lawyers doing their thing. And so if you have access to influence that, absolutely do so. Absolutely do so. I have no problem. I always tell my community, whether you marching or burning, I'm with you. So for the people that's going at the protest, I applaud that. Again, if you're not going to be stuck sharing and being on social media with it, if you're not stuck in that position, then more power to you. But if you're stuck there and subconsciously you're not able to do anything, that's hopelessness that's going to be stuck in you by watching these videos. You can advocate without looking at the video. Just consider that. I'm out, y'all. It's your boy Montoya Smith. All I ask is that you think. I always got to shout out the radio show. We got every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on my Facebook page, or on the Mental Dialogue Facebook page at Mental Dialogue, on IG at Mental_Dialogue. Go to the bio every Saturday morning. The Mental Dialogue talk show. All I ask is that you think. This Saturday right now I'm still trying to get the guests, but we're working on how are Black businesses surviving during the pandemic. I'm bringing on a tax accountant. I'm reaching out to a couple of our business owners so they can talk about what they're doing to survive during the pandemic. A lot of businesses had to make some adjustments. I was looking to bring on this one sister that's giving away $50,000 in services to help move some of our brick and mortars businesses online. They were not ready for this pandemic, and the sister gave away 50,000. I'm not making it up. 50,000 in services. So You know, I don't have no concept of us not coming together. That's a perfect example. I couldn't get that sister on, whatever. I'll definitely be mentioning her on Saturday's show, though, just to what I was trying to get her on directly so she could talk about specifically what she had done. So we come together, regardless of what people think. People will look at these scenarios, look at these videos, and be like, if we would just come together, we come together. But it's easy to come together where we aggregate it. That's what people do when they aggregate it, where we at already. So that's Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, right now in the bio on the IG page, the mental_dialogue page, and the Facebook page, we have up last night's money motivation. I literally twice a month talk to millionaires. I promise you, they think different than my little broke ass think. The stuff they was talking on last night show. I was like, dang, I didn't even know that exists. I mean, my brother was trying to figure out whether to use $30,000 to pour into his business or borrow it. His decision was, let me borrow it, pour it into the business, and instead of keeping my $30,000 in the bank, let me put it to use. And so the $30,000 that he borrowed to put in the business started generating $75,000 a month. The $30,000 liquid that he kept, he used it to generate another stream of income. So he basically used his $30,000 to create another stream, borrowed the $30,000 to move his sales from $15,000 a month to $75,000 a month. I'm just like, I would have been trying to hold on to the liquid just in case. He was like, man, I done created 2 income streams. And the reason I could do it is because I borrowed the money. What's up, Jay? I hope you still on this thing, man. What's up, King? I saw the 282. Absolutely, King. All right. It's all good, y'all. Holla at y'all. Spread the word. I'm just ended up rambling, so I know it's gonna probably be too long for people to watch. But again, thank y'all for considering this perspective. That's all we do is just consider it. Not having to agree. We don't have to agree. That's what we do on the show. We bring both sides to the table every Saturday morning. Check us out. It's the smartest show on radio. We got the smartest audience in radio. We literally connecting people all the time, sometimes live on the air. We've had people literally get for example, their liquor in stores because of a show we had. Like, we got all kind of examples of connecting people. Every Saturday morning, we just try to have the conversations to make us think better. If you think right, you can act right. I'm out.